By the time the fire was finally under control, Elias Rowan was standing in the mud with nothing left to save. The workshop was still smoking. Wet ash clung to his boots. A broken beam hissed in the rain. One of his hands was cut open, but he hadn't even wrapped it. He just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the place where weeks of labor, borrowed money, and the last of his hope had gone up in flames. No one in Ashburn went near him. They only watched. In that small riverside town, people always came out when something burned, not to help for long, mostly to witness it, to carry the story home, to repeat it at supper. And as the smoke drifted low across the road, the whisper began moving through the crowd like it had been waiting for this moment. That's the end of Elias Rowan. Most men would have broken right there. Most men would have taken the fire as a verdict. But the strange thing about Elias was this. Every time life hit him hard enough to bury him, something in him refused to stay buried. Ashburn had never known what to do with a man like that. It was the kind of town where lives were inherited. The miller's son learned the mill. The blacksmith's son learned iron. People worked, married, got older, and called that wisdom. No one said dreams were foolish out loud, but everyone knew they were expensive. Elias was raised in a narrow house near the edge of town, where winter air slipped through the walls, and every coin already had a job before it reached the table. His father repaired wagon parts when work came in. His mother sold bread, dried herbs, and whatever else she could carry to market. They were honest people, careful people. They knew how to endure. But even as a boy, Elias wanted to understand more than endurance. He asked why some traders returned richer each season while others vanished. He asked why one craftsman stayed poor and another built a name. He listened when grown men talked business. He watched hands, tools, timing decisions. He was not reckless, not lazy, not spoiled. He was hungry. And that kind of hunger, the kind that reaches past survival and toward something larger, can build a man or destroy him. Elias Rowan was about to learn which one it would do. And once that hunger began pulling him toward the world, it became impossible for him to live like everyone else in Ashburn. By the time Elias turned 18, people all over town knew his face, even if they never said his name with much warmth. He was the young man lifting flour sacks at the mill before sunrise, sanding rough planks behind the cooper's yard by noon, and patching broken cartboards by lantern light after supper. He moved from one kind of labor to another without complaint. His shirt was always marked with sawdust, mud, soot, or grease, sometimes all four in the same day. But work by itself was never the whole story with Elias. He paid attention. He noticed which cupboard doors swelled in damp weather, which stools gave way under heavy weight, which wagon wheels came back with the same split near the same spoke. While other men finished a job and forgot it, Elias kept thinking about why things failed, and how they might be made better. That habit led him to his first real chance. Using scrap wood, borrowed tools, and hours stolen from sleep, he built 3 storage chests in a cramped shed behind a cooper's shop. They were not beautiful. One had a lid that sat slightly off-center. Another needed its hinge reset twice. But they were solid, practical, useful. When he carried them into the Saturday market, he sold all 3 before the day was over. That should have taught him patience. Instead, it lit a fire in him. He took the small handful of coins he earned and immediately broke it into pieces. One part went toward more timber. Another went into an arrangement with a ferryman who promised quick, profit-moving grain across the river for merchants. The last part went into a pile of damaged tools bought cheap from a passing trader. Elias believed he could fix them and sell them for more. In his mind, he was being clever, efficient, ambitious. In truth, he was beginning to scatter himself. At first, the movement felt exciting. He ran from the river to the shed, from the shed to the market, from the market to repair benches and back again. He slept little, ate fast, promised too much. When one thing slipped, he told himself he would make it up with effort. Then everything slipped at once. A furniture order went unfinished because Elias spent half a day at the river arguing over delayed grain. 2 repaired tools cracked the moment a farmer tried them. Then, after days of rain, a rope snapped in heavy current, and several sacks were swept downstream before anyone could reach them. The merchant wanted repayment. The ferryman blamed Elias. And standing on the riverbank with cold water splashing his boots, Elias felt the first clean cut of adult failure. Not disappointment, not embarrassment, the harsher thing. The moment a man realizes that hard work, by itself, does not guarantee he is building anything that will last. And after that day by the river, life stopped testing Elias in small amounts. Winter came down hard on Ashburn that year. The roads turned thick with mud, then froze hard enough to crack wagon rims. Market stalls opened late and closed early. Smoke hung low over the rooftops. People bought flour, lamp oil, blankets, and little else. When money tightened, no one cared about clever ideas. They cared about getting through the week. Elias adjusted the only way he knew how. He took repair jobs during the day, patching cart rails, replacing broken handles, tightening loose joints on chairs that had already lived too long. At night, he sat under weak candlelight with scraps of paper spread across the table, sketching better designs for storage crates, wheel frames, tool grips, always chasing the next workable idea, always telling himself that one solid break could still turn everything around. Then his father got sick. At first it was just a cough, then it became the kind that stayed. Long nights, shallow breathing, days when the old man could not stand long enough to finish a simple repair. The sound of him coughing through the wall changed the whole house. Elias' mother began stretching breath thinner, speaking softer, sleeping less. Every coin that came in went straight back out. Medicine, coal, food, debt. Then the men he owed began showing up, not shouting, not threatening. That would have been easier to hate. They came with hats in their hands and hard eyes, asking when payment would come, asking in the calm voice people use when they've already decided you are failing. So Elias made the choice desperate men always make. He bet everything on one last strong hand. A timber trader from the next county offered him cheap stock and a rented workspace to build wagon wheels before the spring caravans began. It made sense. Ashburn needed wheels. Farmers needed them. Merchants broke them every season on bad roads and sharp stone. For once the plan was not foolish. For once Elias felt certain. And for a few short weeks, certainty felt almost like rescue. He worked until his palms split. He shaved wood in the dark before sunrise. He hauled rims, shaped spokes, checked balance by hand, and stacked finished wheels against the wall with the care of a man stacking his future. He could see the road ahead at last. Debts paid, medicine on the table, his mother resting, his father spared one more burden. Then one night, while he was away delivering a small order, a lantern overturned in the workshop. By the time he came running back, the flames had already eaten through half the roof. People gathered in the road with blankets over their shoulders, orange firelight flickering across their faces. Elias tried to get inside. Two men held him back. Sparks spun into the black sky. Timber cracked. Iron shrieked in the heat. And behind him, just loud enough to hear, someone whispered, of course it was him. That was the moment something in Elias gave way. Not his ambition, not even his pride. Something deeper, his belief that effort alone could keep a man from losing everything. And when that belief cracked, the man he had been began to crack with it. For days, Elias barely spoke. He moved through the house like a shadow, helping his mother where he could, sitting by his father's bed at night, staring at the floor as if the answer might rise from the wood. The fire had taken more than a workshop. It had stripped him bare. In Ashburn, failure had always been public. But this felt different. This felt final. Then came the twist he never saw coming. A week after the fire, an old craftsman named Alden came to see him. Now Alden was not a man people loved. He was blunt, difficult, and known for saying the thing others were too polite to say. Years earlier, Elias had once tried to sell goods in a corner of the market Alden used for timber orders. Elias had always believed the old man disliked him, maybe even wanted him to fail. So when Alden appeared at the door, Elias expected mockery. He got something worse. The truth. Alden looked him in the eye and said, "You work like three men, and think like none." Elias stiffened. The old man stepped closer. "You want someone to blame. Blame bad weather. Blame dishonest traders. Blame bad luck. Go on, but if you tell the truth, this fire did not ruin you. It only revealed what was already weak." Those words hit harder than the flames ever could. Elias wanted to argue. He wanted to throw the old man out. But he couldn't, because somewhere inside he knew Alden was right. Alden walked slowly through the room, glancing at Elias's scattered sketches and failed plans. Then he said, quieter this time, you chase 5 roads at once, and wonder why none of them lead anywhere. You start with energy, not depth. You build with hope, not foundation. That is not ambition, boy. That is chaos. And there it was. Not cruel fate, not the town, not even the fire. The real enemy had been hiding inside his habits all along. For the first time in his life, Elias stopped defending himself. He sat down and listened. Alden told him something no one else ever had. A man does not rise because he wants more. He rises because he learns one thing deeply enough that the world cannot ignore it. That night, Elias did not make a new plan. He did something far harder. He laid every past failure in front of himself and saw the pattern: too fast, too scattered, too hungry for movement, not mastery. And in that painful silence, something changed. Not his dream, his way. Fine 5. And after hearing that sentence, Elias did the hardest thing a proud man can do. He changed. The next morning, he gathered his old sketches, failed plans, and half-built ideas into one pile on the table. Crates, repair schemes, delivery routes, small trade ventures, clever thoughts that had once felt like the beginning of a new life. He looked at them for a long time, then fed most of them to the stove. Not because they were worthless, because they were dividing him. This time, he chose one craft and stayed with it. He chose wagon wheels. It was not glamorous work. No one stood in the market admiring a wheel. But Elias understood them better than anything else. He had repaired broken ones in sleet, carried damaged ones through mud, seen how cheap wood split under strain, and how bad balance ruined an otherwise strong cart. For the first time, he was not chasing excitement. He was choosing something useful, something real. Alden took him in, though not gently. Under the old man's roof, Elias learned what he had never truly learned before. Patience with detail. He studied wood grain, drying times, spoke tension, iron fitting, balance. If he rushed a cut, Alden made him start again. If he guessed instead of measuring, the piece went into the scrap pile. Some days Elias went home angry, other days humbled. But week after week, his hands grew steadier. His eye grew sharper. His work stopped looking ambitious and started looking trustworthy. That was the turning point. His first proper order came from a farmer whose cart had failed twice on the North Road. Elias built him a new pair of wheels, stronger at the hub, tighter at the rim. 3 months later, the man returned with mud still dried on his boots and placed another order. Then told 2 neighbors. That is how it began. Not with applause, not with luck, with one customer who came back. Then came a grain merchant, then a mule trader, then a caravan man who said, I was told yours are the ones that don't wobble. In Ashburn, that was as good as praise. Money came slowly, but it stopped leaking away. Elias paid old debts little by little. He brought medicine home without borrowing. He repaired the roof above his mother's bed before the next winter set in. His father, thinner now but smiling again, once ran a rough hand over a finished wheel and said, this one will last. Years later, people in town no longer told the story of Elias Rowan the fool. They told the story of Elias Rowan the man who built things that held. And that was the real victory. Not the workshop, not the money, not even the respect. It was this. Life had struck him again and again, and each blow had taken something false away. His haste, his vanity, his need to prove himself too early. What remained was stronger than the man who had once chased every shining idea. Sometimes life does not break you to end you. Sometimes it breaks what was weak so something better can stand in its place. If this story meant something to you, if it gave you a perspective or a lesson you needed so you can finally do something with your life, please like this video and share it with someone who needs it. And tell me in the comments, do you think people grow more from success or from failure? I will be back with another story to help you keep growing. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one.